We're here today with Tracy Abney, owner of Rocket City Doulas Doula Agency.
Well, I don't think there's a double doula, but
Well, it says it here.
I know.
Well, it's Rocket,
I see.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
like-
Rocket City Doulas. It's a doula.
wow,
We're a
wow.
doula agency.
So, owner of Rocket City Doulas.
Which happens to be a doula agency.
yes,
Yeah.
there you go.
So I'm not 100% wrong.
yeah, no, not at all.
That's not the name of it, but Anyway, okay.
And we are wanting to pull in the innovators, the people that are shaking things up. And Tracy fits the mold because, in a world of doulas where I think burnout is like a big problem and trying to find ways around that. And so we thought, that's probably an issue that lots of people are facing in the small business world. So Tracy, let's get to it. Like, what's going on?
Can you not ruin my sound? You're like...
So, what's going on?
Are you
Tell
okay?
me, like, tell us about...
By the way, a little bit of housekeeping. Sorry. By the way, a little bit of housekeeping. So we don't want to only be this way. Then we'll just have nothing but profiles. So you gotta back and forth. Okay, that's all the housekeeping.
Okay, great.
So tell us, Tracy. Oh,
And when
you were going to ask
when you look at it, don't look at the monitor.
Yeah.
Look at the
little
circle.
one.
Yeah. The
Okay,
the
got it.
lens. This is the place to be.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so
Okay, fine.
So Tracy,
There
you're an
you go.
innovator in Huntsville because you are changing the way, like the burnout around doulas. So let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what is the biggest issue that you saw coming in, and you're like, you know what, I'm going to have a doula agency and I'm going to solve this issue.
So I worked solo for 11 years before I opened the agency. And what I saw was what most doulas experience in the community, especially if you do it for any length of time. Most doulas only last about 2 to 3 years before they burn out and they quit. And so what happens is that people will have their first baby, maybe their second, but then by that time their doula has quit. They've moved on because the lifestyle of constantly being on call is so taxing that it's just not worth it anymore. Whether it's their health, their family, whatever it is that cost is too high.
So let's back it up a little because I know Lucas and I were talking about like doulas in general and just talking about like, so what is a doula? What is their role? What do they do?
I was
Sure.
thinking like I was like, oh, like a midwife. Like that was my first thought.
That's what everybody thinks.
That's what I think, exactly. And, so,
And I was like, no,
Dana's like,
Luke.
No, different role.
Not that.
So like to very simplistic terms,
Keep it simple
yes.
for me.
For
Our
so-
audience is sophisticated, but I'm
Right.
kind of an idiot.
So midwives, physicians, OBGYNs are really focused on the physical health and the physical well-being of mom and baby, right?
Yeah.
Doulas are really focusing on the emotional health of mom and family. And so we're really there to be a support system in more ways than just emotional health, but really that's our primary focus, is to kind of come alongside of the family as they move through pregnancy, labor, birth, and postpartum. When I'm talking to someone who's never heard of a doula before, I'll say it's like a personal trainer. It's all about your goals, what you're hoping to achieve. We're not going to tell you what you need to look like, right? We're going to talk to you and say, what are your goals? We're going to tell you if your goals are, maybe unrealistic, or maybe you need to change some things in order to meet your goals.
Like have a baby.
Most people, some people, that is their goal. Their goal is get the baby out.
Just get the
and that's
healthy
it.
birth, like,
But some other people, they'll have a goal of, they have a desire that they want a peaceful environment, or they want to feel like they have a voice or a say, or
you're an event planner.
Yeah.
You're an event.
So another thing I compare to
Right?
is a wedding planner.
That's right. I get it.
Yeah.
You got like you're basically. I'm going to try.
Yeah,
I'm just going to try, and you're like,
absolutely.
So if you're like me, so okay, you're creating. So they say, okay, here's what I want to get out of this, right? And maybe they don't know, and so you can help them with some ideas.
Yeah, if they don't know, we walk through it with them, and we try to figure out it with them.
And then you probably, I don't know if but it's almost like an itinerary of like how it's going to play out, and like what are like the hard stops. I definitely don't want this. Definitely don't want, because it's scary. Like my wife and I, we've had two. She delivered 2 babies.
Yeah,
obviously.
You were involved. It's fine. You have a very important part in that.
Thanks, Dana. Great.
Your feelings are valid.
Yes.
Very good. This is perfect.
Were both of you pregnant or just her?
Right. Yes. So we have 2, and it's scary.
Yeah.
It's really scary.
It's very overwhelming,
really, really
too.
scary.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of external input from a lot of different sources, from family, from healthcare professionals, and it's kind of a mixed bag. It's not always like what you would want it to be like. It can be it can feel a little bit. Anyway, all of that to say, having a plan, I think, is important.
What stood out for me just then is that, it is the women that are giving birth, but the guys, they kind of feel like somewhat helpless in that moment. And like, as the woman, you are physically, you're in it. You know what's going on.
Well, and you're
not communicating at all.
Your brain actually kind of goes into a different space. Like, you move more into the amygdala and less into the thinking space when you're the person giving birth. We like to call it labor land, right? Like, the person giving birth moves to labor land. And so they're not always super aware of what's going on and what's happening. I know a lot of people who have given birth who really don't realize how many people are actually in the room when they have their baby. And I mean, my best friend was that way. She came to my birth and she was like, I had no idea there were so many people in this room.
Right.
I was like, I mean, not every birth, but a lot of them have a lot of people, and we don't realize it because our brain is kind of moved over into this space it's supposed to go to when we give birth.
To make sure that you survive. Is that what it is?
I mean, kind of.
Right.
Especially if people are having an unmedicated birth or a birth without pain relief. That is what our brain is supposed to do. It's supposed to go into this spot that is not designed to be like in a thinking brain, but in a coping way, right?
Yeah.
Like going what we call inside of ourselves as we try to manage through, the intensity of labor. But dads support people. They don't go there, right? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not in that spot. And oftentimes watching someone they love dearly go through this really scary thing, and they don't know much about it generally. Right. And they also don't know what they don't know, which is really scary too, if you think about it. Like, if you go into a situation and you don't even know what questions to ask, right? Like, you don't even know, like, well, if I knew what to ask, I could ask it of my doctor. That's where the doula comes in too, of like, hey, let's talk about what we should ask in this question, or, if this comes up, what should we talk about? What would you like to ask? We walk through a lot of that prenatally with families, or if we're working with a family postpartum, we'll help them with figuring out their parenting philosophy, like how they want to parent their child, because most people already have a parenting philosophy, they just don't know what it is yet.
Right.
They call it like,
or they know what
trauma.
they don't want to do.
Or they know what they don't want to
I know
do.
I don't want to be like this, right?
Right. And then they be like that.
Yeah, and that's all
they get so rigid. Dana. Yes. Lucas, everyone.
Listen, I'm a veteran parent. I'm moving into the new world of grandparenthood.
It's true.
So.
Yeah, that's right. She's a grandma. Look at that.
Not yet.
Well, coming soon.
I call everybody who's pregnant is already a parent. So, like, the baby's just not on the outside. So you're a grandparent in
So I'm going to be in that weird support role I'm actually pretty nervous and scared because the thought of my baby in labor and something going wrong absolutely almost paralyzes me.
So I would say go ahead and work on that because you do bring that energy if you're going to be in the room, if she's inviting you in, like, just, you got to let that, you got to let that go.
Nice. It sounds like you guys have a healthy relationship. I remember when my wife was in labor with my son. And so what I do, this is like my emergency response psychology. Okay, this is what happens to me. I go into management mode of things, right? Like, I go into okay, what needs to be done? Right. What needs to be? Let's do this thing.
Yeah,
let's go over.
Yeah, I've seen you go into robot mode.
I go. On big shoots sometimes. When I'm dealing with a lot of equipment, you can get data. But don't look for an emotional response because it's not there. I've completely compartmentalized that part of myself because there's no. When I'm in that space, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's just about doing the next step and the next step and the next step, which is funny because I hadn't really connected that so much. But I remember with the wife, it was.
Believe it or not, in our community of lots of engineers, that tends to be pretty typical where the dad really likes to have data. They really love watching the baby monitors, like the heart rate monitors and all that stuff, because that gives them data, right? But, sometimes we talk about, just helping families kind of move through those things is talking about statistics, like what, of different interventions or things that are being offered, if they're considering using different types of pain management. We'll talk through what are the pros and cons, what are the benefits and risks, what are some alternatives. but we do kind of pull it back and say, what's your intuition say? Like, what's your gut say here? Because something may look right on paper, right? It may have, benefits and risks. If you put them in a column, it may have more benefits. But it also has to feel right for you and your family in labor, in birth, and in postpartum. Because if it doesn't feel right for your family, it doesn't feel authentic to you, it's not going to be the right choice. And it's going to cause some discomfort with not being authentic to what you're really looking for there. And obviously in labor, we're going to have to we're going to have to work around what's going on with, your body and your baby. But, there are some just things that, again, it may look right, but if they don't feel right, then they're not right.
And
okay,
I just
that's what
love
I'm not clear. Hang on, no. Come on. Give me, you got to tell me. What do you mean by that?
Well, sometimes the data might say something.
Right.
Data like?
And
Okay, let's say...
like baby heart rate data?
Okay,
like,
so not necessarily in an emergency.
I'm tasking.
Yeah. Not necessarily, we're not necessarily talking emergency situation, right? But let's say somebody is trying to decide if they want to utilize a pain management option, like an epidural.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, they're maybe weighing the benefits and risks of an epidural. And, there's lots of actually benefits that are beyond just pain management. Most people think the only thing that's an epidural is good for is the pain, right? Like it removes the pain. There are other benefits as well, but there are risks as well. And so maybe when someone's trying to decide, do I want to have an epidural or not, there may be more benefits in the column for them, but it may just not sit right with like maybe how they live the rest of their life.
I see. You're talking about like personal value system, core beliefs.
Kind of in their value system, and
you're saying use both of those pieces.
You have
of
to
information.
use both of them. Yeah.
So
Don't
even
though
just like it said here, there was more benefits.
Right.
Yeah.
We should
so that's
go
what we're
this
gonna
way.
do.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like even things like for me personally with my last baby, I was only having contractions every 15 minutes. On paper, that really isn't the time to go to the hospital when you're contracting that little.
It could be a Braxton Hicks.
Yeah, or
Did I get it right?
Not one is consistent.
But I got the name right.
But yes, you did get the name right. Or like prodromal labor, which prodromal labor is labor that goes on.
I was going to say prodromal labor.
We're not going to say
prodromal labor. But so on paper, like it probably, if you were just going to go by the data, it's not time to go in, right? But my intuition, my gut was like, something's different. Something feels different.
And
I need to go in. This is number 4.
Yeah, number 4.
And I was 8 centimeters dilated when I got there. So
every
15 minutes. If I had waited,
what are you supposed to be at for? Like, what's supposed to be? Like
again, like if we're living in an ideal world, you're looking at 3-ish minutes for someone who's playing an unmedicated labor.
I mean, you're talking about almost 20-minute difference.
Yeah. I mean, I would have had the baby on 565, like in my car. Because by the time my contractions got that close, I had her 20 minutes later.
Right.
So, it's, but my intuition, my gut was just screaming at me. I had a doula. I called her and I was telling her, like, we've tried all these things. They're every 15 minutes, but like my gut's just saying, hey, I need to go in, I think.
Yeah.
Now
what did the doula say?
Oh, she said go in. I mean, like we're big believers in like if intuition
or
gut is like
because there's a reason, right? Because your body knows what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, and so like in the same regard, let's say somebody would like to labor at home for a while, even if it's their first baby, and we've talked about some things they can do to manage early labor at home, and I mean, even most physicians would tell you to try to labor at home, in the early parts of labor until labor really gets going, because now active labor is actually defined as 6 centimeters. It used to be 4. Now it's 6.
Because you're not allowed to have food. You're not allowed to be doing all these things.
So before, not getting too deep into like
the standard procedure
history, but like in the 1950s, there was a doctor named Dr. Friedman who did a study on the Friedman's curve with 500 women from the same hospital, and they watched the rate of their dilation over the course of their labor, and then they charted it, and they said, okay, so women are supposed to dilate 1 centimeter an hour for every hour, right? Well, what was happening is they applied that data to the entire population of the United States.
Wow.
They were also all white women, so like you're looking at different ethnicities, you're looking at different locations, and now, I mean, if you're comparing the 1950s, some of those people were like they were knocked out, right? Like, I mean, and also they might have been smoking cigarettes and doing. And
did it matter
drugs.
Which baby they were on? It didn't
matter, not necessarily. I don't know about that particular data.
Yeah, but it's a tiny sample, and it's not a diverse sample.
Exactly. So, but they based that practice of what active labor was, which was 4 centimeters to 6 centimeters, right? And then what was happening is that the cesarean rate started to decline because people would do what they call failure to progress. So you would only get so far in labor, and they would say, oh, well, you're not dilating fast enough, so we need to get the baby out. And of course, this is not a blame on physicians. No. This is the data they had, and they're making the best, choices that they can.
It's another data versus intuition thing, right?
Right. But what they've learned...
That's not enough data.
Right. So what they've learned, I think it was in 2000...
We got to do better studies.
Yeah.
We got to do better studies, guys.
Exactly. So...
it's a good starting point. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah. Hey,
at least that's my opinion.
If we're finally doing studies on women...
Right. Women are now included in studies.
Wait.
In case you didn't know.
Wait. Yeah. So in 2016 or 19, I don't remember exactly which off the top of my head, they changed it because they realized that beginning portion of labor is a lot slower than they originally anticipated.
It wasn't one every hour.
It wasn't one every hour. It takes a lot longer. And so they now define active labor as 6 centimeters instead of 4. And so you can do a lot of that work at home before you ever go to the hospital.
Be more comfortable.
And be more comfortable, and then really get into your active labor pattern before you go. So when we're talking with a family that wants to do that, we always reiterate, we know what your plan is. Here's some tools. But if you call me the day of and you're like, I'm going to the hospital right now and I've had 3 contractions, we're going to talk. We're going to talk about what's going on, what's brought you to that conclusion. Are you anxious? I don't want to use just anxious because anxious is a valid and big feeling. Is it just because you're excited about having your baby? Because that's the thing that people don't realize will happen is that when they start contracting, they get really excited, and then sometimes they go too early because they're super excited, which is valid. They're gonna have a baby.
Yeah.
That's so fun and so exciting. They're gonna meet that baby.
What was that? That was like a swooning.
I was thinking or maybe they're the type of person that likes to go to the airport and sit at the gate and wait because they're just scared that the plane is gonna leave.
Sure. Okay, but those people aren't usually the ones telling us in the prenatal visit that they want to wait at home. Those people are hey, we're gonna go right away, and we go, okay, that's a great idea for you, right? That's
a great idea for you.
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
That for you.
That's a great idea for you. We don't say it with a judgment, of course.
Let me be the person being judgmental. Okay, she's not. It's me. I am judging.
It's just
but
it totally.
No. If that makes them more comfortable, then they're going to have better progress if they go in. If they're that type of person.
And you can tell probably in your questionnaire the type of person you're this is going to be the.
What about home births?
Yeah.
Are people doing home births?
Yeah, they are. So again,
and have you done so?
So we do attend home births. I'd say about 90% of our births are still in hospital, mainly because a lot of people tend to think about doulas, if they've heard of them in the past, as people who only attend unmedicated births, or they kind of lump us in with midwives, right? You guys are kind of a combo. We really market and really push towards what I call mainstream folks. So people who are planning epidurals as well as people who aren't, but we really are trying to hit the market of the people having babies. The majority of people having babies are not going to fall into the home birth crowd. Does that mean we don't love a home birth? We love home births, right? Yeah. They're fun. They're really fun. But we're really marketing towards our people who are having babies every day, who don't know that there's a support system like this.
They're always I wish I had known you 3 years ago.
That's exactly
right.
It.
And it's how do you get that message that you can be supported?
Right.
It doesn't matter so many different ways.
And we've talked about this too, with whether it's an unmedicated labor, whether it's a planned cesarean, and I would argue planned cesareans almost need more support, but that's a different argument for another day.
Yeah.
I know you can't just do why?
Because they're major. It's major surgery.
It's surgery.
It's major surgery. They cut through 7 layers.
With my son, we did. We did. We went for. Let me clicking pens. No, sound guy Lucas is put that down. Okay, so we tried natural birth, and what was it? You're not progressing?
Yeah, failure to progress. Yeah.
And like I was a natural birth. All my siblings, I think all of them, most of them, the ones that are messed up probably. No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I'm making fun. But so we tried natural birth with my boy Nathan, and it wasn't progressing, and so we had to do a cesarean.
Yeah.
And you think about it like, oh yeah, it's like a
Right.
And that no. This is a real deal.
Major. Like you're taking stuff out of the body through the.
And like,
there's a baby.
Sometimes setting those things in a tray.
Oh God.
Like the organs that they have to get out of the way to. Oh my God.
Terrifying.
So
intense. So that's why.
And sometimes
maybe
it's
a doula for that also.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's the person's first surgery ever.
Yeah.
And that's
right?
really, really scary.
Yeah.
And then too, the support person is usually frightened.
Yeah.
If it maybe
because my wife is now under a knife,
and you're watching her have surgery.
Yeah, I'm standing
like
there.
How often
do
you watch the surgery?
Yes.
Like it's not like the movies where they're like, you know, all the ORs have the window and you're looking outside. Is that?
It's not great.
Yeah, and then someone comes in and sits down and they're like giving you like that like one-on-one, like I remember back in my day. No, it's not like that at all.
No, it's not like.
I'm in the room and there's a piece of whatever sheet that's like pulled, and you know I didn't want to look, but I could see a lot happening.
Yeah.
And I was just focused on my wife, and you know, I mean.
And so
It's crazy.
So this is exactly where doula can come in, because oftentimes with dads, I'll kind of guide them into that area of like, hey, why don't you bring your head down next to hers? It allows you to not have your field of vision have anything in your field of vision.
Oh, man.
But also it kind of gives her a grounding and a connection, because it can sort of feel out of body.
Right. Like, are you even part of this?
And that's exactly it. Like, it can feel like it's not happening to you. And also, even the best doctors, they're working, the nurses are working. And so a lot of times our doulas will talk through the procedure. We'll talk through, like, this is what you're feeling. You're about to meet your baby, and then this is what's going to happen. And,
that gave me chills.
And just kind of...
I'm deep in emotions.
I'm feeling it right now.
Jackie was so
God.
tired at that point. I mean, she'd been
after
labor for hours.
labor,
And then to do that, and she was just like, it was just so scary.
It was not how she envisioned it going either.
Right.
No.
But then you have your advocate. That's what I really love about the whole idea of the doula. You have your advocate, because so my first birth, I wanted to go natural just because I don't like to feel numb. Yeah. Not because I had any other, I don't like to feel numb, and I knew that was going to take away from my experience. And so like, I was like, no, I'd like to not do it. And then, oh my God, it was like they didn't believe me. They were like, oh, honey.
The push.
Why don't you go ahead and sign so that when you start to beg, we'll give it to you. And I was like, no, you don't understand. That I don't want to. And it was like, and I didn't have an advocate. And I felt like I was just bullied.
I've got a big piss off on
This was my first, so I was young. I was really young, obviously.
Things have changed for the better in that regard.
Okay, so this birth was 25 years ago.
I was just going to say,
they were still pretty assertive. I mean, like my mom is like, she's a shaman. She's a shaman from the hills.
I don't actually know what shaman means.
She's it's like a doula. No, not really. Sorry. It's not. It's like she's like a mystic woman.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, okay.
And I'm alluding to like her hippiness and her like alternative medicine. Like she's
Mom.
locked in on like hospital bad, like take care of it, like, and so like there's definitely like hardcore polarization to that thinking, which is obviously no. But
which I think people connect
they
to
do.
doula.
They think that is how all of us are. Now some of us, yes. Which is why I push real hard on the mainstream part.
Right.
Yeah,
because
like, no, you can have a doula and have an epidural.
And part of that was my story is, like, I walked in, I was very young when I had my first, and I mean, obviously.
Let's just clear that up.
And, I mean, in my birth class, like, I remember thinking, I'm going to get that epidural as soon as I can, right? Like, I was never the person who was going to have a home birth with my first one especially. Like, that was not something that was on my radar. That wasn't something that I even would have really enjoyed. I would have been scared to death to do that. Obviously, it would be different if I had a baby now. Like, my
your
thought processes, my experiences have really shaped my belief about a lot of things. But my heart is still there, right? Of, like, just knowing that the people who are giving birth in a hospital, who want an epidural, who are having cesareans, who want to have an unmedicated birth, they also don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know what the procedures are, what the difference is between what's being offered and what's kind of a procedure or like what they have to follow, right? So I know for me, I didn't know that you could get out of bed because they put me in the bed and I thought, well, I can't get out.
Yeah,
right.
Like,
and they'll, I mean, I'm speaking from very limited experience. I'm sure you have more experience than mine, but just like Dana was saying, and this is what I was talking about with Mom, is like, they'll tell you have to do this thing. I mean, some people, not everybody. I'm generalizing here.
Yeah.
It was nice to have Mom there because she was the complete opposite,
right.
karate chopping these people
She's like, no, they can't.
She's like, no,
can do
you
this.
can do this, you can do that. In
Right.
fact, you should get up, you should do this thing, take
Right.
this position, do that,
Right.
which was fantastic. So thank you, Mom. I love you.
Yeah,
that was wonderful
that's
of you.
super sweet.
But it was like,
But
my point is there's a pain point for me, and I think for a lot of people, about the pushiness. Like let's just say it like it is. Like, people come into the room and they do 100 births a week, and so it's a little bit of a ticket, you know.
What
and
this
they're
makes
like,
me think. How welcome is a doula in the hospital?
ooh, good question.
Okay, so I'm going to.
Do they have your picture up? And they're like, don't let her.
So that's funny because there are some of my own photographs in an OB's office down in Anniston.
But not telling you that you can't go in.
Oh, no. Like, they're
okay.
my photographs of, like, I took them at births that I was at with him,
okay.
and he has them hanging in his office.
Yeah. You had one that went viral
I
and
did.
is
I had
published
one.
in a book now, right?
It was in a museum.
In a
too,
museum?
in Stockholm.
Oh.
Okay.
Fancy.
If you Google my name.
I will need your autograph.
If you Google my name and clear drape cesarean, it will pop up. The picture and all of the articles. It was featured in 25 different news outlets or something like that. So, in a book and published in a book.
Yeah.
I got paid for that to be in a book.
Imagine getting paid. I want to get paid.
We like money.
I know. It wasn't very much, but I told my husband.
money.
Right? It wasn't very much, but I told my husband, I can say that I'm a published photographer
Thank
now,
you.
right?
Thank you. Yeah, no.
I'm legit.
I'll take it. No, any amount of pay for a fun, wonderful experience is
yes.
hello.
So yeah. So I've worked really hard my entire career with building good relationships with hospital staff, and particularly local, because it's really vital to me, as I've seen through my years of working collaboratively with the team. We are part of the team. We are not the only part of the team. I don't want to be your medical provider. I don't want to be in charge of the baby's health. I don't want to be in charge of your health. I want to be in my role, and I want someone else to do that other part, and I want to come fill the gaps that are there. And so in order to do that the best way is we have to form relationships with providers, with the hospital staff, and that has been going. I mean, it takes a while, but Huntsville Hospital in particular has been really amazing. They had a change of leadership during COVID, and the new nurse manager there, I mean, she's not new anymore. She's been there several years.
Since COVID, right?
Yeah, but she has just been such a joy to work with. She's brought myself and another doula in to teach their nurses some comfort measures. Our team just went in and did a private tour for our newer doulas that joined the team so that they could get more in-depth questions answered about the nursing and the procedures and the protocol and all those things.
That's awesome.
But also we have an understanding of if something happens, we know that we can go to each other and sit down and have a conversation versus just throw it on the internet, right? We can, if something comes up and it's a negative thing, we know that we can sit down and say, hey, what happened here? How do we fix this moving forward?
And also, I think that you would have the point of view, you would know whether something was normal, that's procedure,
right,
versus...
And what people don't...
is it incentivized? So is this is it that hospitals or hospital staff are somehow making more money pushing these kinds of things?
So they don't really.
Or is this just a cookie cutter approach?
It may be a view. It may be a view, a personal view.
Okay, yeah.
The hospital itself, I don't know. But I do know for a fact, because there have been rumors for a long time that physicians make more with cesareans. They really don't. It's very little. It's $300 more or something. It's not not.
And it seems like it's a lot more work.
It is actually more work.
Risk.
And they have to check on them more in the postpartum period. The nurses for sure do not get any incentive in pay, whether you have a vaginal birth or a cesarean. What I found at Huntsville is that they are much more inclined to be receptive to birth plans and be receptive to alternative things. Now, some of your pushback is going to come from your doctor, your physician, depending on what you're looking for. So we work with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, we're not going to turn anybody away because we firmly believe if you trust your provider, we're going to come alongside you and help. We might say, hey, that thing on your birth plan, that provider usually doesn't love to do that. You need to have a conversation with them about
Bring
that.
It up. So
but we're never going to say...
because you're developing it separately from the OBGYN.
Yeah. And like you definitely
the OBGYN also delivers babies, right? Like it's not a separate person.
Right.
That is.
Well, I know that this is a vagina doctor and all the other things associated with vaginas. I know what all those things are.
You know what that is.
I know what those things are. I'm sure they have it. But also delivers the baby and deals with postpartum.
And also there are nurse midwives now. We do have nurse midwives that work in the hospital.
But I have more questions. I want to get the details. Okay. So doula service, is this something that you can put on insurance? Like, how does this work? Is this just something someone has? So it's totally something someone has to say, I want to get this.
Private pay.
Yes. So some FSAs and HSAs will cover the it's your money,
right?
But we are eligible for those funds. You have to check with your HR department. There's no way for us to know unless you just try it, right? Like you can just, when we send you an invoice, you can pay with a credit card, see if it goes through. But some people will get reimbursed by their FSA or the HSA, and we'll provide them with a detailed invoice or whatever they need. Boeing, locally, I filled out 3 forms this month already for reimbursement for doula services.
Ooh, did you hear that?
Reimburses their employees.
So we haven't actually gotten reimbursed, not us, but our clients haven't gotten reimbursed yet, but we started the process. We filled out the paperwork and we sent it over. But
there's something in their employee
paperwork. There is.
It's
something benefits. That just came out.
Really?
But again, we're not running it through
Boeing needs some good PR.
Yeah, right.
Because they're really bad at making planes right now.
Right.
No, but their doors are falling off. Have you seen this?
Yeah,
you don't want to talk about it?
I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't know their door. Oh wait, yes, I do know.
I'm surely you know.
Yes, I am aware of that. I'm aware of that. I'm playing dumb. Lucas.
I'm just saying, so they could. It sounds like Boeing's at least going in the right direction for their employees.
We'll know soon, I think, if those have gone through. But it seems like it's gonna go great.
That's a great.
I always tell clients, to, after their birth, write a letter to their insurance company and say, this is how this service saved you money. Will you please reimburse?
But that's insurance companies are garbage.
Right, but...
I mean, not all of them. I'm just saying my experience with it's been... I mean, okay, I'm going to write...
Right.
A letter to... I would write a letter to Tyler.
Has that worked?
Okay, so it has.
Really?
Occasionally. But the thing that it's important to think about, and this is also how we ended up sometimes getting into the OR. If you don't ask, they don't see it as a demand, right? So if no one ever asks for doulas to be covered under insurance, it will never happen.
Right.
They have to have the consumer interested in that, or it will never be. They don't have any incentive.
So the more inquiries they get, regardless.
And they also have to show. You also have to say this saved you money,
right?
Because we know statistically that people are less likely to have a cesarean, less likely to utilize pain management if they're planning to go without an epidural, less likely to have complications when they use a doula.
Really?
They're less likely to have complications?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So, does that...
Why is that?
Okay, so...
Just because of, set...
So
So the studies alone, they actually showed when someone was trained, it had the best outcomes, like a trained doula. But even when there was just an additional person who just sat in the room, there were better outcomes.
Really?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So even if you just have a person
that they trust, I imagine, obviously.
It could be
Is this like a
pull someone
mother?
Pull someone out of the hallway.
Is this like a mother that needs to be in the room?
No, it was someone they don't know. It
really?
Just
the
as
study.
An additional
Mom
person.
Didn't count?
No, mom definitely counted. It was the mom.
It was the mom. I personally, I don't know what they decided it was, but I personally think it's a higher level of accountability.
Yeah.
When there's an additional person in the room who is not emotionally involved, like, even though we love our clients, I'm never going to be as emotionally involved with them as you are with your wife, right?
Yeah, it would suck, like, whatever's happening.
Accountability for who? You're talking about for the medical
doctors,
staff?
for the medical, for everything, for
And
everyone.
when you have someone in there consistently, the nurses are not able to be in there consistently. They have other patients.
Yeah.
They have to
They're
chart.
juggling
they have
a
to
lot.
Do
There's a lot of time.
They're coming on shift and off
I remember
shift.
when we were laboring with, I think this was with Penny. I think it was Penny. Maybe it was Nathan. I don't know. They were both fantastic labors with different who knows what. But there were times when it was just me and Jackie in the room watching Game of Thrones for hours. I mean, at least one episode at a time. We probably got through a whole season.
A whole season because, it took so long.
It was a good labor.
Hey.
It was a good labor.
Yeah, you had some time to bond. So,
okay, so fine.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, then what about, there's a fly in here.
Yep, it's okay.
Okay.
Just ignore it.
So, write a letter to insurance. I don't know, but that sounds like that's sort of kind of going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think we are moving. Now, some states, Medicaid does cover in doula support. However, it's covering at such a low rate in most states that it's not really feasible. Again,
it doesn't actually cover
we're thinking about sustainability within the doula community, right? Like, that's what I'm always thinking about. I'm thinking about doula retention. I'm thinking about sustainability. I'm thinking about how do we do this work long term and kind of raise the profession in the eyes of the community as like, hey, this is a legit profession. This is not a hobby, right? This is not something I just do on the side, right? It's not a little doula thing, right?
Oh my God, how often do you get that? How's that little doula thing going? How's that little video stuff going?
I know, right?
I know. That drives me crazy. But that's, again, but like...
There's definitely an external perception, like, for sure, of... like a doula is definitely an afterthought,
right?
Like this is like it's kind of like
video
it's for
like
your wedding.
It's like for crunching people. It's
like
for
people.
like...
It's on the very last thing on the checklist, if even on the checklist, right? And so I think that there's like, and I don't know that this is. I'm speaking in generalizations, obviously, and so I don't know that I imagine this is changing. Obviously, we've made a lot of forward progress over the last 100 years or span of time, so it's probably going to get better. There it is.
Just ignore it. You're good. God. You can do this.
I could do this. And now it's lost. But I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges is like, how can we help people understand the value that's added? What you said just a second ago, statistically, there's better outcomes when you have this. And even more so, like shining a light on the fact that having somebody there to be your advocate, to make sure that the birth plan goes the way.
That you're not getting bullied.
You're not getting bullied. You're not getting...
Or just like you don't understand.
Yeah, you don't know what you can and can't do, so you don't ask.
I always like to say we're like the microphone. So what that means, because sometimes I feel like, again, the perception of doulas is they're going to take over, right? They're going to take over.
And they're going to do the job.
They're going to, or be combative or whatever. And really what we're trying to do is, we've sat down prenatally, we've talked about what you're looking for. And in the moment, what I like to say is we're going to slow down the room and we're going to hand you the microphone. So as you kind of alluded to before, anything that sort of is presented to us, especially if you're the patient, can feel really overwhelming and can feel like it's an emergency. Most of the time it's not. Most of the time we have a minute at least to say, I have some questions. Can you give me a minute to think those through? And then can we talk about this before I say yes or no?
Options, yeah.
Or as the doula, sometimes how we kind of facilitate slowing down the room is to say, hey, they're getting ready to offer to break your water right now. I know that when we talked before, you said that you really didn't want to have that done artificially. Would you like to ask some questions and take a minute to think about it, right? So, like... from
firsthand, I didn't even know it was an option.
Right.
They just came in. I don't even think I was asked. They just came in and busted it.
Right.
They were just like, time.
And consent.
So, how's your day going?
And so consent has come a bit of a ways. I think we're understanding, especially newer nurses, newer doctors, younger folks are really understanding more about consent and what that looks like and what it doesn't look like. Because what it doesn't look like is, I'm going to break your water. It's more of a discussion of benefits and risks, right? But, we have to manage with what we have.
Just punch someone's face. Like, to be so invasive.
Yes.
And to do that to somebody who's in a state of, like almost like
they
emotional, psychological dissociation, right? Like, this is a person who's, like, whose body is saying, like, this could be life or death, so we're going to just detach a little bit, and someone's going to walk up and just be like, okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of
Agreed.
that.
All of it.
Okay.
All
okay.
of
We
it.
got to get some data though.
Yeah.
Okay. So come
what's
on.
the data?
What's the range? Okay. So people have to put this out of their pocket
Yeah.
potentially.
Yes.
Okay. So this is going to be $10,000.
Oh,
This
no.
is $20,000.
No. Our rate is $1,650.
$1,650.
Yes.
16,500 million.
$1,650.
And that's for showing up on the day of birth?
So, no, that includes, so whenever a client hires us, so we do, again, when we're going back into innovative, things, a traditional model would be that a doula doesn't technically go on call for a client until 37 or 38 weeks. Because it's not sustainable for them to live their life when they have multiple clients. They would never be able to go on vacation or go to the doctor,
because they're pregnant for
because you're pregnant
9
for however
months.
long.
Yeah.
We work in a little bit of a different model. We work in a doula team model. So each of our clients has 2 doulas who are fully their doulas. They do everything
they're what?
fully.
Like
they're doulas.
Oh, okay.
So
there's-
both of them are completely their doulas.
So it's not a backup and primary situation. They're
I
both
see.
fully their doulas. They do everything together with the clients except the birth itself, and then whoever is on call attends the birth. But part of the reason that we do it that way is it allows our doulas to go on call immediately when someone hires us. So, if they have early pregnancy bleeding and they need someone to go with them to the, the OBED, like the
And
and it's
you
not
do that,
38 weeks.
and they're not 38 weeks, they're 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Or even, as much as it sucks to say, but as a lost mom, if they lose their baby, they have someone still who will go to the hospital with them and do all of those things we would do with any other type of birth. What I call it is birth in any trimester, right? We are their support system, birth in any trimester. So that means 5 weeks, that means 24, that means full term. And we're going to go in and support them in the same way. Obviously not the same exact way if it's lost, but in the same types of way that we would any other client. And we're able to do that because we have a shared call model. Mm-hmm. We were not able to do that prior to this. And that was important to me because we had a lot of miscarriages. And so being able to support our clients through those losses early on really, really impacts their experience.
I can't imagine.
I'm having heavy crossed wires here because you're covering good data and information, but you're also using some terms that are new to me.
Sure.
So I'm gonna have to just dig in. I'm gonna have to dig in, guys. Here we go.
And it's hard when you're immersed in this to remember what people
do
what
and
terms.
Don't know.
People
well,
know and don't know.
I'm just gonna. I do everything on intuition, just about. Thank God Dana can put words on a page because otherwise I would be lost myself. I'd be just off in another world talking about.
We all have our skills.
Yeah.
Yes. A loss mom?
Yeah.
So this is when a baby
doesn't... At any point in pregnancy or after.
And you lost a baby.
We lost 6. We had 6 miscarriages.
You?
Yes.
Oh my God.
That is insane. And you do stuff with Grief Share and what was it?
Rikers Rainbow. We partner with Rikers Rainbow. That's our main way that we give back to our community is by supporting them. And last year we supported them in their family Christmas dinner, I think is what it was.
So explain what that is.
Rikers Rainbow is a foundation that helps support bereaved families through child loss, pregnancy and child loss. And so they...
Oh, so no matter what age.
I'm just feeling so sad right now.
But you know what?
I can't even imagine how to relate,
But say you were going through this and you had no idea what the support could have looked like, and instead you're just dealing with it completely on your own. Is this the time that you're going to get on Google and start looking for what is there available for me?
Right.
No,
well, and if we're talking about both,
exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Lost birth, so if someone has either a fatal diagnosis or they're currently laboring and losing their baby. The same things apply to a live birth where it's so overwhelming, right? You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you can ask for. You don't know what options are available to you. You don't know that different hospitals have different options. Wow. And so if somebody is our client, we can recommend, hey, Huntsville has these things called cold cots, right? Where you can keep your baby after you have birthed it it if it's far enough along. It keeps your baby cold, so that you can. So if the baby's passed, you can keep the baby in your room while you stay in the hospital with you, right?
To kind of like process some of that grief.
Right, and just say goodbye.
Instead of it just being taken
and
away.
there are other hospitals in our community that do not have those same options. So like even just that alone, right? Like the other hospital isn't going to tell you that hospital has those.
Right.
So, when somebody hires us early and obviously we never want our clients to have to walk through this. It's tragic for everyone involved. But like they have, and not everyone wants to face it early on, but I mean, for me as someone who has gone through a lot of loss and a lot of miscarriages, I didn't know what my options were. I didn't really understand, and that's where a lot of people lie. And then they also have grief, right? So it's like just the compounded of they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what the options are, and they're also grieving. And so being able to be that support for our families and be able to be there immediately on call.
I know. I'm just I'm trying to like get out of my feels and back into the show.
But here's what I'm doing. I'm feeling good about it because it's like
there's like this wealth of
becoming
support
aware of the ability.
And this comes into the innovated part because we are set up specifically to help in those situations.
Right. And it happens.
We weren't before. When I was solo, maybe I could do it, but maybe I couldn't, right? Like there's no guarantee. The way we have our agency set up is so that we can support loss.
Okay, so first of all, $1,650 is a price point that I just feel like is really very, very, very reasonable. And like you want to make that as accessible as possible to people, of course.
Right.
Like,
and we also do payment
I'm just
plans,
surprised, honestly. I'm just surprised by it. And I think it's a good thing. I'm not saying like raise the rate because like I want to be an advocate for everybody, and not everybody has $1,650 that they can just be like, boom, especially for something that right now is perceived as like an extra. Right. But also, it seems like it shouldn't be perceived that way. So I think we want to be moving in the other direction.
Yeah, we want to like how
do you
make it to where it's not just an extra nice to have.
It shouldn't be an extra, and it should be through insurance. The whole thing should be through insurance. That just makes a lot of sense. It keeps people safer. Like you have statistics and facts that support that. Okay, so we need to go ahead and wrap it up. But I just want to I want to make sure that people know. So do you do some kind of free consultation or something?
We
like
do.
That?
So what we didn't touch on too is we also do. I mean, I touched on it a little bit, but postpartum work.
No, I don't think we even talked about that. So when the baby's
born, we're done there.
We also do postpartum work. We do overnights, which we've worked collaboratively with Dana before
on
the baby sleep side.
Not about the profitability.
No, on the baby sleep side. They don't know the baby's not like typing up a.
You want your baby to be more profitable.
I mean, but it's another. People don't realize, and you're on maternity leave, so you've got all
Enjoy
this
your
time.
vacation.
Yes, you're going to be off for 12 paid weeks.
Give me a break.
Right.
Oh my God! Right.
So I will say our clientele is a little bit different on that side, only because unless they're just buying our base package, it does tend to be a little bit more of an investment.
Sure.
Especially if somebody's using us for overnights. Because overnights are long. If you're awake, they're long. And so we can help. Our primary goal during day shifts is to help the person who's given birth, help them recover physically and emotionally from birth. And that is really broad. So that can be anything that you can think of that might get in the way of their recovery, from things like taking care of the infant so they can rest or shower, doing the dishes, doing laundry, helping them meal prep so that they have a meal ready when we're not there, helping them.
This is insane. You should basically be, like, the way I see it, I would be approaching like big companies, like money companies here in Huntsville, saying you need to fund this, you need to sponsor this many births this year or something, because like this figure is very low, and there's a lot of money in Huntsville.
So this is the birth only.
I know.
It's going to be more than that.
That's fine. But even if it's like
the postpartum
is
triple,
or
the people in Huntsville with money.
The thing is, there are people here with money.
But you know what? Not everybody has has a family,
right.
a big tribe.
Yes.
Not everybody has, like, especially in Huntsville, there are so many, like, transplants that are away from all of their
try
family.
to keep it accessible.
Oh, that's a great point.
And we,
yeah,
and
like
we
there
try...
are people having babies here that
don't have family.
My mom to run in on
right.
and be like, I'm gonna like
and
basically doula this, you know.
Or we'll have families who have lost their family, like they're a little older and they've already lost their parents. And I will say we do still have accessible packages, so it's not like all of our packages on the postpartum side are you know, for families who have more money. But you know, specifically when we're working with families long term, we've worked with a set of twins for about 11 months.
Oh wow!
A set of triplets for a while. I think it was like 9 months.
Yeah.
And
can you imagine if you're getting into those multiple births, like?
Yeah, and
insane.
Yeah, I mean, and so it really just depends on, again, on the postpartum side, what your goals are, what you're looking for, and we're going to fill that, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we've worked with families who the husband or the dad travels a lot, and so the mom needs extra support when they left, you know, when they're on travel, or we've worked with physicians when they went back to work and they need to be on their game and not be up all night, right, with their babies, and so we come in and help take care of the babies and help, you know, just get them rest.
Do the dishes.
So yeah, do the dishes.
Right.
Do the dishes
right.
like you're talking about, like this is like basic level taking care of another human being, which is something that people that are from the outside probably are not like recognizing, but these are the things that need to be done to continue living an okay life, and that can't always happen when you've got a brand new baby there and you're exhausted.
I bet you that y'all are like first responders, right? You're able to see if there's like
absolutely,
you know, postpartum
depression, anxiety,
because
OCD,
sometimes you don't know you don't know it's happening,
right?
And from having that perspective and be like,
and
know
even
what, we
health
need to talk
issues.
about it.
I was in a family's house. What I like to say is we're experts in normal postpartum recovery. We can't diagnose, but what we can do is tell you if something's normal or not. If it's something we typically see in that postpartum period, we'll say, hey, yeah, that's really normal. That's a normal thing that we see. Here are some things that we can do to maybe help with that. Versus if it's something that isn't normal, we're going to say this is outside of what we typically see. At this stage, you definitely should contact whatever the next level of professional is, right?
Whereas they reach out to somebody else, and there's this misconception between common and normal.
Right.
Those are not the same
things.
things.
Those are not the same things.
And I hear it all the time. Oh, that's normal. Right. And it's like, oh, no, that's common. That's not normal.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, like, so I was in one family's house, early postpartum. I think she was 3 days postpartum. And there was I'm not going to get too much into the details, but there was she was struggling with a physical thing that was not in that normal realm.
Right.
Again, I had an idea of what I thought it was, but I am not a physician. I can't diagnose her. I'm not going to tell her what I think it is. But what I'm going to say is, hey, like, this is really outside of what we normally see, and this is really concerning. I suggest you go to the ER right now. And she was rehospitalized. So, you know, I'm not saying that we were the savior in that moment.
Yeah, but you could have been. But there could have been a bleed out.
It was postpartum eclampsia. Like, so her blood pressure was extremely high.
Why? What does that mean? Oh, she had an infection? Or?
No. Like, her blood pressure was really high. Wow. So she was really swollen, and she had a headache. I mean, I did think it was.
Way to go, Steve.
I know, but like, I don't like to say that.
But she was okay.
Yeah, I mean, we learned.
I should have asked before we started high-fiving.
No, I wouldn't have told the story if she wasn't okay.
And that kind of thing can happen, and people don't even know it. And so what? She was probably not feeling great. But
she had a headache. She had a headache, and she had some swelling, which some swelling is normal if you've had IV fluids. Yeah. It is normal, but this was beyond normal. This was like, I can't open a cereal box. Yeah. Like, that's not normal.
Yeah. Right. Like she had swelling in the hands.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, like, it's normal to have some swelling, especially if she had a cesarean. So especially after cesarean, when you have a lot of fluids.
Yeah.
But what's not normal is the level that she had combined with the fact that she had a headache. Mm-hmm. And so some people think,
they'll be like, oh, I just need to go lay down. I need to have a nap.
And so, like, again, it's
I'd be like, I need caffeine.
Just having that another person.
Of course, I would never.
Get
I'm
some
like,
Band-Aid, yes.
if I was in that situation, okay.
But having the additional person who has training, who also sees a lot of people postpartum, right? Like we see a lot of people.
No, I think the way you said it was perfect. Like if it's not, like we know what normal should look like.
Yeah, we know what normal
should look like. If it's not in the
like.
box,
we're gonna tell you to go get checked out.
Let's just get it checked out because what's the worst that happens?
And honestly, our intuition plays into this a lot because if we even feel like, oh, something is off.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that's going to be different if we're talking about mental health. Mental health is approached a little bit differently. We're definitely going to have more conversations. It's going to be a little bit of a different flow.
Mm-hmm.
But when we're talking about physical health, absolutely, like, hey, this is something you need to get checked out.
We are now. Let's go.
So,
like, do you need me to drive?
Okay.
Like, let's go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Come on. I got it. I'm sorry. I've got to do it. Okay, so let's
we got to
bring it back in. So, okay. People you need to talk to her, okay? So if you got a baby coming,
let's just say, let's wrap this up with what this means.
What does this mean?
For Huntsville.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it's a great question. Yeah, right. This show's about Huntsville.
Yeah.
What does it mean for Huntsville? I don't know. It means that Huntsville is moving in the right direction.
We've got support that maybe is not everywhere. Like not every city has a doula agency.
That's right.
When I started, there were 3 doulas here. I was one of 3.
Yeah.
3 people.
3
we
whole
have 14
ones
on our team right now.
Do you know how many babies are born in Huntsville?
It's a lot of babies.
How many do we know?
I don't remember,
but
it's a lot.
There's a bunch.
Where's our
right? Yeah. It's a lot of babies. But yeah, so I mean, we are right now the only doula agency. We are the first doula agency here. We are the only doula agency here right now that I'm aware of, unless one snuck up and I don't know. And so we actually are also the only way that.
So wait, what does that mean, doula agent? So there's like private doulas, like freelance
on their own.
Yeah, like just solo. Our doulas technically are still, they can take their own clients solo as well, but the doula agency, part of the beauty of the model is you have access to not only your 2 doulas that are on your team if you're on the labor side, but you have access to the entire team of doulas, and then you have access to me, the owner, right? Mm-hmm. So the beauty for the doulas is that they have mentorship, built-in mentorship. We do monthly education. So I bring in experts from our community to come in and do continuing education for free. Mm-hmm. And it's not required. They can come, they can not, but most of them come because they want to learn more.
Right.
And then they also have, just the ability to be with people who are like-minded in our little community because it can be isolating when you're working solo. It just can be isolating. And
like
so
I've said, every entrepreneur ever.
And so having the community of, Rocket City Doulas, the agency, is really beneficial. And it also, again, creates sustainability within our doulas because we share call. Also, if they're at a really long birth, they can swap with their partner. Mm-hmm. When I was solo, I had a birth one time that was 52 hours long.
Yeah.
And so, just being able to know, okay, I can go home and go to sleep if I'm completely exhausted. And also it benefits our client because they have a well-rested doula who has a brain that's working.
Right. Yeah. Instead of being exhausted like everybody else.
So tight and concise. Where do your doulas come from? They're going to school somewhere and then come
so they're
to you,
getting training. So I was a trainer before. I had to take a step back because of my health stuff. But we prefer, there are a couple of certifications that we do prefer our doulas have. It's not a a hard stop.
They have to have a certification.
They have to have a certification. They have to have things like CPR and insurance, and there's a whole thing that they need to have to be with us. Solo doulas don't have to have any of those things.
I could just go and
you
be
could just
I'm a
call
doula.
Yourself a doula and you could go do it.
I could claim the Google My Business, Lucas the doula.
It's scary, but yes, that is the truth.
That is crazy.
And so
that's
and
insane.
people don't know that. And so that's another huge thing is that our doulas have accountability, not only through me, but through the certifications that they hold. They have to meet a certain standard or they lose their certification. There's things our doulas can and can't do. Risky behavior will get them, particularly with one of the certifications we prefer, they won't be certified anymore.
So if somebody was interested in becoming a doula, it's kind of where I'm going.
Yeah, they can still reach out to me and I can kind of get them in touch with the right people, or give them some options.
Yeah, get them on the right path.
Get them on the right path. A lot lot of the organizations will do virtual trainings, or if there's not a local training, you can take a virtual training and then do the local training and when it comes for free. So, there's options like that, or you can go somewhere where they're hosting a local training.
And you have
so how
14.
many doulas did you say?
14.
14?
Boom! Lucas has the recall.
Yeah, 14.
You got 14 doulas, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really smart method that you're using, which I think is producing more longevity for the team members on your staff, but also probably providing a better experience for your clients. Like you're saying, you probably want your doula to have slept in the last 36 hours.
And again, like just you want your doula to be able to work in this field for longer than 2 years. Right. Otherwise, you always have a new doula.
Right. You want that experience. That they've seen all of these things.
And most doulas don't have the mentorship either.
Yeah.
Like they don't have someone to even text in the middle of a labor and say, hey, like I'm like having a brain fart here. Do you remember what I should suggest in this particular situation?
Sure. Right.
And they have an entire team to do that with.
And
they have me
somebody
to do
out
that
of those 14.
Somebody's gonna know what to do. Yeah. And or even if they're having a hard birth or they have a really rough time, they have somebody on the team to call and talk things through. Not only one of their colleagues, but me too. And so like it just makes a difference when people feel supported in their role. In burnout, it makes a difference. Now I think there's still some bumps that I'm learning as I go because it's a newer model for me and it's a newer model for our community.
Is there another company doing this model?
There are other cities have I have friends in Michigan who there's multiple in the same city. Detroit has
and you
several.
Mastermind with some of them.
Yes, I mastermind. I'm friends with several different agency owners, which is one of my favorite things ever.
That way y'all can kind of say, hey,
what's working for you?
This is
I mean, obviously price ranges are going to be different. I have a friend who lives in California, her Redwood doulas. Her prices are going to be a lot different than ours.
Of course,
but in just functionality and ideas and systems,
best
even
practices,
just figuring things out. I mean, even we've changed a little bit this year because I saw that some of our doulas were getting a little burnt out at longer births. So just changing systems as we go. I'm always really open.
Out, saying what can we do
to help support longevity in our doulas so that it's better for our clients' experiences.
Yeah,
okay. Where do people find you?
Yeah.
How do people connect with you?
So it's really easy. www.rocketcitydoulas.com.
Not Rocket City Doulas Doula Agency.
No.
Rocket City Doulas.
Rocket City Doulas. And there's a button on there. It says contact me. You can schedule a call. You can send us an email. We're on Facebook, same name, Rocket City Doulas. We're on Instagram, same name, Rocket City Doulas. We're on TikTok.
I actually love a lot of she actually has a really good social media account. Lots of good stuff on there.
Most of our largest following is actually on TikTok. Mm-hmm. So they can find us all on there. Again, you can Google my name. It'll probably pop up. Pretty much, I'm not a secret to find on the internet. My life is pretty public.
How far? Okay. So, okay. I'm just wanting to get the last little bit. I want to squeeze the juice.
Sure.
Squeeze all the juice. How far in advance does someone need to? You know what I'm saying?
Like before they're pregnant. I'm just kidding.
Should we be calling on the first date?
So we do have people.
Come on, I thought that was good.
Oh, no. The first date, you could. We have people who call us anywhere from preconception.
That would be the first date call.
I'm not even kidding. Those people I just love because I know they have a plan.
They are planners. They are planners. They're like, we're gonna do.
So
this.
We have a couple of people who are like, when we get pregnant, you're it, right? Like they already know. We have people who call us right away. I don't think there's really any risk. I didn't mention, but we do actually fully refund for bereavement too. Mm-hmm. And so there is no risk in hiring us early because we will also provide that bereavement support, that loss support. And again, that's part of the way that we give back because that's really important to me. But we have people who hire us as soon as the pee dries, right? Like on the test.
on the stick.
And then
I was trying trying to imagine what situation you were referencing.
He is drying.
And I'll tell you, I wasn't thinking of
the pregnancy test. Like, as it dries, they give us a call, especially if they've used us before, right?
Oh, yeah.
Those are the people who are usually
they're like, I haven't even told mom, but I called you.
You should get like some pregnancy test marketing with your number right there on it. When you pee on it, the number shows up.
Means
2 lines means call us.
Yeah. That's not bad.
And then we have folks that hire us a month out. The beauty of having a larger team means that we usually have some type of availability. Now, I will say if you are due in September or October, you probably need to call us right now because we are almost full for those months. But
we probably need to be talking about December.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are those like the busiest months?
Those are the busiest months every year.
They are 9 months after Christmas and New Year.
People are doing it on Christmas.
Yes. So, and particularly, I don't know if you remember the ice storm that we had.
Yeah. It's 9 months after that ice storm.
So pretty much 9
so
months
that was the October.
Yeah. So our busiest months for births are September, October, and March. And so if you're doing those months, I usually tell folks, like, it is better if you can get us...
March.
Hold on, wait, what did COVID do to the birth rate?
Yeah, we had a big hump, and then we had a little bit of lull while all of them loved on their babies, and now we're kind of picking back up for siblings.
Second waves.
Second babies.
Second waves? You can't say that after talking about COVID.
Second babies. But I always say, give us a call. We will try to do whatever we can do to help somebody out. But we kind of have two typicals, what I say, right away when that pee dries on the test. And then we have about 3 months before their due date. Those tend to be our most common. It's not because that's for us. That's just what we normally
when they're probably
thinking. Do you have some sort of program where if there was a local business or a person who wanted to sponsor a doula birth, is there something that they can do? Is that something that
reach out?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
You see what
reach
I mean?
out.
Like, definitely.
Absolutely reach out. There are some organizations like in Birmingham, but those aren't going to serve up here.
Right.
But yeah, absolutely reach out.
Yeah, it really seems like, I could see, like, I don't know if there's maybe grant money or I don't know. I'm just trying to think. It seems like you have I really like your business, and I think you seem really cool, and you've had a lot of experience, and I just want to see you, like, I really think this should there's no reason this can't be.
I feel like Lucas is vetting my friends. Like, what is happening?
I just think Dana, you have a cool friend.
I just think this is a really cool thing that you're doing, and I think that it warrants support. Like, I'm sitting here thinking myself, like, how can I, like, I want to sponsor.
How do I support this? How do I?
Because
Jackie, can y'all have another baby?
I know. Oh God.
There is one organization.
It's not possible. Sorry. My wings have been clipped.
Your wings have been clipped. ICANN, which is International Cesarean Awareness Network, they do a small grant quarterly. I believe it's $500. It's a scholarship, a doula scholarship. When you apply, you have to show, I can't remember if you have to show financial need or not, but you do have to, like, write a little bit. And then they pay the doula directly. So, like, if you won the grant, you would contact your doula of choice, and then ICANN would pay that $500 to the doula of your choice. That's nice. Now, obviously, for us, that's not going to cover the whole cost.
Right. But it helps.
But it helps. Yeah, and we do offer payment plans. So, like, and we're happy to break it down as much as we need, as long as it's
so the earlier you call,
the more options
you've got,
you have.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there is a grant program like that. It's not going to cover your whole amount. Yeah. And again, Birmingham does have a little bit more in the grant department down there.
I'm thinking like Bill Penny Toyota sponsored this birth. That's like where my mind is at right now. I'm like,
well, I'm thinking more like it would be better to be connected to babies in some way, right?
Yeah,
like
yes.
Maybe.
You're yes.
Or right. You have to get a bigger car. You just got
I was just going to say that is.
Hey, that's actually not a bad point.
No,
you know what I mean?
Real estate agents, we might have a bigger house because
exactly.
So remind me to tell you after. No, I was going to say we do offer like a welcome packet that has when you say the car thing, there are so many things that can be connected to babies.
Yeah.
Like, and
it's a life change.
Your life changes.
Yeah.
Your life changes.
We are happy to partner with anybody that is in the business of supporting people that are going through life changes in any capacity.
Love it. Well,
Okay.
guys, reach out to Tracy. The Rocket City Doulas team is amazing and, innovative, doing great things here in the Huntsville area. So stay tuned for more.
That's right.
Thank you.